Yarn to Table, is that right? Yeah, episode 9. I'm not going to restart. I thought about it, but I'm not going to. My name is Celeste, and if this is your first time watching, I just want to thank you so much for tuning in. I really hope that you find something here that you like, and if you do, I hope that you subscribe. There is also a Ravelry group that you can find in the doobly-doo, or by searching for Yarn to Table on Ravelry, and there you can enter give-alongs and keep up with all kinds of fun stuff. You can also follow me on Ravelry and Instagram. I'm at Celeste Full, and you can find project notes there in detail for any questions you may have about the projects that you see here. If you're a regular viewer, I want to thank you for coming back as well, and I definitely want to encourage both of you to leave comments, ask questions, get involved in any way that you can. I appreciate it so much. And I also appreciate anyone clicking the thumbs up button down there. I see you doing it, and I always appreciate it because it helps with the algorithms on YouTube for more people to find my podcast, which obviously I appreciate, but it also helps them out too because it basically, people who might be interested are more likely to find my content. So really a kind of a win-win there. Thank you so much, everyone that is clicking that for me. So speaking of the Ravelry group, the first bit of business I have is an announcement for the winner of the 100 subscriber giveaway, which I'm very excited about. Also, I'm now almost to 150 subscribers, so just thank you guys so much for watching and subscribing because I really appreciate it. I don't care about what the numbers are in terms of, feeling like, ooh, I'm the most popular, but it's so good to know that you're out there watching and appreciating, and the more people that are watching, the more people are commenting and joining in the conversation, and that makes it so much more interesting and rewarding for me, and I think for all of us. So when you subscribe and when you participate and comment and do all of that, I appreciate it so much, and I think all the other viewers do too. So that's why I wanted to celebrate this. And if you don't remember, the prize is a pair of signature needles in the 2.5 millimeter 10-inch straight needles with the stiletto tip and the teardrop on the end. And I'm going to be sending those out to the lucky winner. So 21 of you entered the giveaway on Ravelry. So I picked a random number using random.org between 2 and 21. Or 2 and 22, because 1 was my post, obviously. And the winner was number 4, which is Tara Knits Now. So hi Tara, congratulations. Send me a line on Ravelry with an address that I can get those needles shipped off to you, and I will do that right away. And Tara's goal for the year was to finish her Cozy Memories blanket by Christmas, and she even says, I bet signatures would help with that, LOL. So yay, perfect. And also knit at least 20 pairs of socks and a couple of sweaters. So very cool goals there, and it sounds like you will be putting the needles to great use. So I'm very happy you won, and get in contact with me whenever you can, and I'll get those out to you. So now that that is out of the way, I just want to thank everybody for joining in that giveaway. It was super awesome reading all of your goals for the year. In fact, I've locked the thread, but I'm going to leave it up for a little while in case anybody else wants to check out what everyone's goals were, because I thought it was really fun to read through. And without further ado, I'm going to get into my well, not my finished objects, because I don't have finished objects, but we're going to get into works in progress. So let's just get straight to the exciting part and to the work in progress that you haven't seen yet. Are you seeing this? Are you figuring out what this is? Are you thinking brioche? It's brioche, you guys. It's brioche. Okay, so last week I mentioned that these two yarns seemed like they really wanted to be brioche together. This is the Homespun House Local Yarn Club in her first color, Nesting, which I think you just saw in the skein. So this is it caked up. So gorgeous. And this is Knit Picks Capra, which is a merino cashmere blend in the color Flamingo. And this is leftover from my Hops a Lot felted bunny slippers, and it probably looks like I don't have enough to make it. I had almost 2 skeins left over, and I don't think this will be enough to make it. But for complicated reasons, when I ordered that yarn, it like got lost in the mail, and then they were sending it back to Knit Picks, so Knit Picks sent me another box, and then it ended up getting like re-reverted back to me, and they were just like, keep it. So I now have a lot extra of this, so I'm definitely gonna be able to make it to the end. So, oh my God, I love this. I'm so excited about this. This is the Meandering Shawl by Stephen West. Sorry, I'm getting my yarn here. Which is a brioche pattern. And if you can't tell, I've made a lot of progress since starting it last week. So I actually cast this on last Sunday, I think, after the podcast. And it has been my main thing that I've been knitting on this week. And I've gotten in a fair amount of knitting this week because I was actually sick for a good portion of it. And I did some, you know, working from home. And so when you do that, when you're sort of like in between working and you're taking your little breaks and stuff, it's much easier to just knit. And then also in the evenings, I wasn't doing so much other stuff, even with like housekeeping or like, you know, the kinds of regular errands that you might have in the evenings. I was just sort of like just knitting and chilling out because I felt so terrible. So I got a lot of knitting in, even though I actually did have a lot of work to do as well. So I wasn't just like working from home where you're actually just sitting at home and knitting. I was actually working, but I still was able to get in more work than I think I would have if I hadn't been sick. I mean, get in more knitting than I would have if I hadn't been sick. So this, I just want to knit on it. It's so fun. And I always hear people talk about how fun brioche is, and I totally get it now. I actually couldn't remember if I had knit brioche before or not, and when I got into it, I started to remember that I had done double knitting, but I definitely hadn't done brioche because I could just tell that it wasn't familiar enough. That happens when you've been knitting for coming up on 19 years, I want to say. You just don't remember everything that you've done. So yeah, but I'm pretty sure I have not done brioche. So the thing about it is, it's kind of complicated at first. There's like, you know, you knit every row twice, once with one color and once with the other color, and you're doing all these like yarn overs and knitting things together with their little yarn over, or as Stephen West calls it, their little shawl accessory. Like he says every little stitch has a shawl accessory, which is the yarn over. I think that's so cute. But actually once you get used to it, it's so intuitive. Like once you start to realize how it's working and you can read your knitting and you can like understand what's going on, it becomes incredibly intuitive. So like, for example, when you're on the front side, and none of this is giving away like this pattern, it's just brioche in general. So I'm just using this as an example. But when you're on the front, so this is technically the back side of the shawl, which is where the pink stands out, and this is the front, which is where the nesting stands out. When you're on the front side, you're knitting with the thing that's visible and purling with the thing that's not, right? And then reversed on the other side. So it's really easy to remember that. And then it's also like you just always do this one first and then this. And then when you're on the other side, you do this one first and then this. So it's really easy, if that makes any sense to you, to figure out like, what row am I on? And should I be knitting or purling? Like, once you start to be able to read the knitting and understand what's going on, it's one of the most intuitive things I've ever knit, actually. And this shawl is pretty great. So, oh, you can see my cute little progress keeper on there. That came with the local yarn club colorway for nesting. So the construction of this shawl is sort of interesting. You start here with like a provisional cast on, and then you knit a little rectangle, and then you like knit around and you pick up your stitches and you do this whole thing that creates this shape where basically you've got like this seam in the middle, and then suddenly you're knitting from there, if that makes any sense. And that's like the most complicated part of it. And that helps create this little ridge. And then everything is coming out from that. And after that, the most complicated part of the shawl is just that you have this zigzag. So the whole thing is like, it's a very well written pattern. I would definitely recommend it. I think it's fine for me to be my first brioche pattern. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it as a first brioche pattern, especially if you're not a super experienced knitter. So for me, like, I've done a lot of stuff beyond just vanilla knitting, right? Like I've done baubles and stranded work and intarsia and double knitting, and so I'm pretty confident about my ability to read my knitting, to understand construction, and because of that, I feel that I kind of had a leg up, and yet I still made a few mistakes, and I'll show them to you. So I think if you're just like an excited beginner who wants to try out brioche, but you haven't necessarily tried a ton of different techniques, I would only say make this your first project if like you're not going to be frustrated by making mistakes. Otherwise, I would say pick a more simple brioche shawl like the Marley by Andrea Mowry or something like that, and then maybe make this your second one. Or even do like a smaller project like a hat just to get the brioche going, and then you can move on to like a larger project. But so here are my mistakes. This, I honestly don't even know what the heck this is. It's only on the back side, so it's not that big of a deal. But see this little oval here? This is where the main color got like crossed over in front of the pink. And it doesn't show it all on the right side, which was part of why I didn't notice it. And part of why I didn't notice it was I kind of thought maybe that was just what it was supposed to do because it was right at the end of a section. And yeah, so by the time I sort of realized by the time I got to where I had been doing enough, because this was right at the beginning, so once I was doing enough that I felt like I understood the concept of the brioche and I could read my stitches better, it was very clear to me that this was a mistake. But at that point I was further on, and so I was just like, whatever. It definitely bothers me, but like, because this is more of a process knit, I just want to be having fun with it and not like killing myself to rip back and fix various problems. It's still going to be a product that I really enjoy wearing, and this isn't going to make it, you know, it's not going to infringe on my enjoyment. It's not a gift for someone. It doesn't feel like it has to be perfect. So yeah, that's my thinking there. And then my other mistake is right here, also on the wrong side, thankfully. You can see right here. Basically, I dropped some stitches, and then I was just kind of trying to figure out how to get them all back on the needle properly, and I just didn't. So there's just a bit of a thing going on there. Again, it doesn't show on the right side. Everything looks fine. It looks good. I have the right stitch count. I mean, I think I fudged it pretty well. It's just right there in the background on the wrong side. It's just not perfect. Which, you know, I mean, both of those mistakes bother me, but they're bothering me less, and I'm just enjoying knitting this. So this has been the majority of my knitting this week, if you couldn't guess. And it's just gorgeous. Here's the thing that I really, really love about this pattern in particular. So with brioche, as you can tell, you sort of have your main color. It's almost like a ribbing. You have your main color in these knit columns, and then you have this sort of fishbone-esque thing between them in the background color, which is this pink. And then the reverse side, you have the reverse. Main columns in this color, fishbones in this background, right? Now, if you haven't noticed, on this one, I'm using a fingering weight and a DK weight together. And so the effect is that you have these more narrow columns with more visible background on the front, and then sort of thicker, puffier columns with less visible background on the back. And I really like that contrast, like if you can see. Not just the contrast in color, but the actual contrast in texture. I just find it really, really interesting. And I think I might even, in the future, if I'm knitting some other brioche pattern, I might just choose to do it with a fingering and a DK just because I like the way they work together. The other thing I've really learned from this is that I like a variegated with a solid. I'm sure two variegateds would be beautiful together as well, and two solids, but like I find that the balance here between what's busy and what isn't is really nice. And I also think that when you have a variegated with the solid background, the color changes stand out. And because you're not viewing it horizontally, you're sort of seeing these vertical columns, the color changes are really apparent because it's not like it's gradually going from pink to blue or something as you go along. It's like a blue V and then a pink V and then a pale V and then a blue V and then a green V and then a pink V, right? So it's like, I just think that's so gorgeous. And it almost reminds me of like a peacock feather or some kind of bird feather, which is interesting because the colorway is named Nesting. It's inspired by birds. So I feel like this was such a perfect pattern for that. I've just been eating up this yarn. It's so scrumptious. The capra is so soft because it has the cashmere in it. This is a little bit more toothsome, but it's like, so sheepy, and it smells lovely, and it's not itchy by any means. And like together, they just make this really lovely squishy fabric. So I just think it's so gorgeous. And honestly, this is like, I can actually see myself knitting this pattern again. I could see myself knitting this pattern again immediately. I just think it's so fun. It's just so fun. I feel like I could make a million of these. To give you an idea of how far I am, so this marker, let's see. Okay, so this marker is where I started a new repeat. So here I did this, and then I did one section, two section, down to the marker. Or no, I did one section, two sections, and then I did a first repeat, one section, two section. And then here is where I'm starting my second repeat of section 1 and section 2. Then I'll have a third repeat of section 1 and section 2, which is like this big. And then the border. So if that makes any sense at all, I'm like 30 to 40% done. It's not going to be much longer than this because obviously those rows down there are like wider. So yeah, I have an idea of how far along I've come. I actually never thought to do this before, which maybe it's super obvious, but I knew that it was going to use about this whole skein, so I weighed the skein to get an idea. That was a little while ago, but when I did it, I had 70 grams left, or about 70 grams left, which let me know that I was about 30% done. Which is, I think, a nice trick for things where it's not really obvious, like with a shawl, because it's getting so much wider as you go. You can't just say like, well, I've done 2 of 3 repeats, so I'm 2/3 of the way. It's like, not necessarily, because the third repeat is going to be way bigger because it's like a broader section of the shawl. So yeah, I thought that was a nice little trick. So next I'm going to show you just a tiny bit of progress I've made on my other whips that you've seen, and then I'm going to show you the latest whip that I started today. So of course, in my Ghastly's bag by Good to Be Girl, I still have my Ashburn, which has not gotten a lot of love this week because obviously I'm like all about the Marley. But I did decide that I really wanted to get done with this section 2 here. So this donut is where I was last week, and I knit up to here just in one sitting one day this week because I decided I wanted to get into the third section. And then of course I haven't actually started the third section because why would you knit anything else when brioche is an option? I mean, so yeah. I'm going to get back to that at some point, but I definitely have a bit of a wavering interest in it, but you know, I think I just needed to give myself a treat this week and just give myself over to the Marley. Like I said last week, I've been doing too many product knits and not enough process knits, and Marley is like everything I want out of the process. It's yarn that I love. It's a new technique that's fun but intuitive, and just like it's such a lovely experience knitting. And then the other things that you've already seen a little bit of are my socks that I got going. So of course in my Madewell, I have the Love socks. You've seen my half object, the one finished with the lovely little heart on the heel flap. You saw this last week. And on Monday, I was recording Return to Stars Hollow, so I knit on this sock all through that recording, and then I haven't touched it again since then, but I think I got a decent start on the second sock for one sitting, you know. And my current vanilla sock that I have going is my Pygmy Puff sock with a Homespun House Pygmy Puff in Plump Merino. Or Plump Merino in Pygmy Puff, I guess is a better way of saying it. Have a little fish lips, because here I was, I don't know, maybe like here or something when you saw it. I knit on it a little bit. It is real close to the part where I'm going to be winding down for the toe. This has just been a little bit of my on-the-go knitting, and the only reason that I haven't actually done the toe yet is because I've been spending so much time with my husband this weekend because he's been off work. So I was knitting on it a little bit in the car yesterday, and I was kind of having to count my rows to make sure that I wasn't blowing past the part where the toe started. And I don't like doing that when I'm trying to like have conversation with him. I really just wanted to focus on him. So also, like, I'm so ahead on my own sock knitting anyway. This was supposed to be for March. So I thought to myself, what am I going to knit? If you can't tell, this is me segueing into what I started today. So I thought to myself, what am I going to knit during the Oscars party? Because I'm going to be sitting there for 6 hours, and I mean, 5 to 6, yeah, 6 is, I mean, maybe 6 hours, yeah. And I'm going to need to knit something, and it's going to need to be mindless, which means it should probably be a vanilla sock. And why am I going to get way ahead on these vanilla socks when I'm supposed to be making vanilla socks for some other people as well? I've been wanting to start his Beyond the Wall sock. And I actually started it at one point. I thought, maybe I'll get this done for Valentine's Day. And then I ended up doing like the cuff and frogging, and I never even showed it to you because I had like frogged it by the time I recorded the podcast that week. And I kind of was like, I just decided it was a bad idea to try to make it some kind of surprise, because I really need to get an idea of what's a good fit on him, since I've only knit him one other pair and they didn't fit well. So I was like, I need to have him trying it on as I go. Like, it's a bad idea to try to make it a surprise. And I can't remember why I frogged it. I think I had changed my mind about like what kind of ribbing I wanted at the cuff, or how many stitches I wanted or something. I don't even know. So that is why there's still some yarn wrapped around this skein. That's from when I started it before, because I literally have just barely started. I just started this in the car today. We drove downtown and then we walked around and saw some of our favorite landmarks, and because we live really close to downtown, that was only like a 15-minute drive. So I've barely started, as you can see. And by the way, our little jaunt downtown is part of my very first ever vlog, which I think I'm going to be putting up the day after this comes out. I just did a little weekend vlog, and I had a lot of fun doing it. I'm actually currently still doing it because it's Sunday, so I'm still going to be doing it through tonight. So definitely tune in and watch that if you're interested to see a little bit of what our weekends look like here in Cincinnati. So anyway, I just barely started this guy, but I'm gonna get a bunch of progress done on him tonight at the Oscars, I believe. And the yarn I'm doing for this is Knit Picks Felici. The colorway is called Beyond the Wall. It's inspired, I'm imagining, by Game of Thrones, which my husband is a big fan of, so am I. So those are going to be some really fun stripy socks for him. I mean, you know I love self-striping. It's so much fun to work with. And I'm just going to do some black heels and toes. Not cuffs, I want to do the striped cuffs. But I am starting with the black colorway, so I think that's going to give it a nice look, like black at the very top and then the heels and toes. So yeah, that's going to be fun. I just have this in my little Field Supply drawstring bag that came with, Fringe Supply, sorry, drawstring bag that came with my field bag. So I'm just literally at my wit's end for, I don't have any more sock pouches because I have 2 other socks going on. Yeah, so that is the situation with works in progress. Moving along to On the Horizon. I have the same kind of plans in general that you've already heard for my non-vanilla, beyond vanilla socks in March. I'm going to do the Renesmee socks by Rachel Kewpie, which are from When Vampires Knit Socks, which is a very, very lovely lace sock pattern, really unique pattern. And I believe that soon I'm going to be doing some more Harry Potter yarn from Little Bean Loves, my Miss Winkle's shawl with the dirigible plums colorway, and the Molly Beret by Alana Dakos with the Hermione colorway. And I'm really excited. What I really would like to do soon is the Floam cardigan, which is by Justina Lorkowska. I always make that face when I say it, which is just a face that I make when I feel like I'm probably mispronouncing something. So I want to do the Floam cardigan out of Owl, Quince & Co. Owl. And I wanted to check it out in person to help decide what colorway I was going to get. So I went to this local yarn store yesterday. This is all in the vlog. So you can get a look at some of the awesome stuff that they do have because they're a really cool shop. But I saw online that they carried Quince & Co., so I thought I would go there and see it in person. Well, it turns out they only carried Lark and what's the other one called? I have some of it in my stash right now for a top I'm gonna make. It doesn't matter. This is gonna bug me. Kestrel! They have Lark and Kestrel, nothing else. So that was a little disappointing, but it just means that I'm gonna have to order some online, and I'll just have to make up my mind about what color I want as best I can, because I would like to get going on that. I haven't been knitting on a garment since I finished Kelly's Miette, so I feel like I would like to have a garment going most of the time now. I feel pretty much like I'm all in on garment knitting. And I'd like to get that Floam done while it's still technically winter, even though it's pretty warm most of the time, because I have some really great upcoming plans for some tops for spring, which I will share with you very soon. Just trying to keep you in suspense until we're a little closer to when I'm actually knitting them, because I know this On the Horizon segment can be kind of repetitive, and I don't want that. So without further ado, I'll move on. Stash enhancement. Obviously, I don't have the Quince & Co. Owl to show you, although I thought I would. Like I said last week, I was going to place an order for an update that was later that evening at Cat Sandwich Fibers, whom I love. But I actually completely forgot to, because my husband was at work and he was sick and he asked me to go out and buy him some NyQuil, which led to me getting sick right after. And so it was late at night and I was like running out to get NyQuil and thinking about him, and I didn't even realize until like a couple hours later. I was like, ugh, I missed that. And I shouldn't have been as disappointed as I was, because I did order some lovely yarn that weekend, and I'm sure I will find another opportunity to order some Cat Sandwich. And I have a skein of Cat Sandwich in my stash. which I don't think you've seen because I think I bought it before I started the podcast. I have plans to make it into socks, but it's scheduled for this summer, and because I'm insane, I guess, and I schedule my I have ideas about socks, and I have so many of them that I have to like schedule them out. It's weird, you guys. That's how I work. So anyway, what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say I ended up being really disappointed when I realized that I had missed it. I felt a lot more disappointed than I thought I would have, which was weird. So now I need to like make sure that I'm aware when she does her next update, just because it's been so long since she updated, because she was like moving and stuff, and it just kind of scares me, like, what if there aren't as many updates anymore and then you can't get any. It's stupid. It's like ridiculous to have anxiety about whether or not you can get yarn that you probably don't have time to knit with anyway. But actually, if I bought yarn from her now, I'd probably knit with it sooner than I knit the yarn from her that's in my stash, because I have that planned for a patterned sock, which is why it's scheduled for like August or July or something of this year, because I kind of have my patterned socks all lined up. Whereas vanilla socks are kind of more inspired by what yarn I'm just feeling or happens to come into my life. They're more like spontaneous, I guess is the term I'm looking for. My whole sock logic probably makes no sense to other people out there, but this is just what's working for me right now. So if I sound super OCD about this, I am, and it's working for me, so. Okay, so that's cat sandwich fibers. So the only thing I have to show you is not yarn, but it's yarn. And this is not something I bought. This is a library book, as you can see. But my husband actually just picked this up for me yesterday. It was on hold at the library, and I always forget to run by there and pick it up. And then the day before, I tried to run by there and pick it up, and I literally was walking up the steps as they were turning the closed sign. And I was like, oh, it's fine, I'll come back tomorrow. The security guard was coming out like, oh, you can come in. And I was like, no, I'll be back tomorrow, because the library is like walking distance from my house. So, but then it like, of course, was like not even top of mind the next day. But Ryan got it for me. Okay, so I'm having technical problems, so I'm sorry if the lighting is like way different here. I'm losing the last of the light, and I'm trying to finish up. Sorry about that. So, Yarn is a memoir about knitting and other things. The author Kyoko Mori was born in Japan and then immigrated to the US. So she actually, I think she learned to knit in her home ec class, or maybe her mother taught her before that, but it opens with her talking about trying to knit 2 perfect identical mittens for this home ec assignment, and she's growing up in the 1970s, and apparently home ec was like a yearly requirement for women in Japan, and there was like a huge emphasis on gender roles and like, you know, you have to do this certain thing to be a proper woman. But then like her mother sort of, instead of teaching her like you need to clean up for a man, like she sort of taught her how crafts can be artistic and like for fun. And then her mother actually very tragically commits suicide. I've just started it, so I don't have a ton to say about it. That's all just like in the first few pages. I just got it yesterday, so I just started it. So obviously it gets, it can be a little dark. I don't think it's just like a fun read about knitting, but I think it's very beautifully written and gonna be a really meaningful book about knitting and life and how those things go together. So I would love to tell you more about it, maybe in kind of a review session in the future after I finished reading it. But if you're interested, there's that. So that's kind of like a stash enhancement. For in-stitches, obviously I'm wearing my Kodo again today. This is my sweater that you can learn a lot more about if you haven't seen it in my episode Kodo You Did It, which is a couple Kodo You Didn't, which is a couple episodes back. So I won't show you it in detail right now, but I'm wearing that. I've been wearing that all day, which was perfect because we had weather kind of in the 40s And because it's so oversized, it doesn't fit super well under coats, but it's really perfect for that kind of jacket weather. You just wear the coat-o and it's like so warm that that's all you need, with like a tank layered under it. So yeah, so I haven't been wearing a ton of my socks lately. I wore them last night to bed, but the weather's been so crazy. It was like 70 degrees on Friday and then 30 degrees yesterday, and then it's been in the 40s today. So it's just been all over the place. But when it's warm, I'm not as likely to even be wearing shoes that require socks. So I haven't been wearing them as much as I have, although they've gotten somewhere. And I wore my little knit turban again today because we walked out on a bridge and went up to the observation deck of the tallest tower, and those things were a little bit windy, so that was good to keep my ears nice and warm. So the only thing I have left for you is chit chat, and I'm actually going to skip that this week just because I'm in a bit of a rush right now. I'm losing the light and I need to get going to the Oscars party, and because since I'm vlogging this weekend, I feel like that sort of fills that void of something a little bit more personal. So I hope that you will check out the vlog. I think it should be uploaded tomorrow. Tomorrow when you're watching this, meaning like Tuesday, not Monday, because it's Sunday now, but where you are, it's Monday. So that's how time works. So yeah, I'm gonna get going. I will see you next week. I hope that I have some more fun stuff for you. I may even be finished on the Ashburn shawl. I don't know, maybe I will have started my floam or at least got the yarn for it. We'll find out. And I want to start a new segment next week. I would start it now, but like I said, I don't really have time for it, where I want to sort of highlight another newer podcast, because I've been listening to or watching and discovering a lot of other like smaller, newer podcasters like myself out there, knitting podcasters, and I'd love to share the love and just give you guys some good recommendations and kind of help spur that a little bit, because some of them are like really great, and you know, they're lesser known because they're newer and stuff, and so you might not be aware of them already. I mean, we all obviously know the big ones that a lot of us watch, and those are fantastic anyway, but you don't really need me to tell you about them. So I think it could be a fun little segment. Either it'll be a segment where I sort of go into more detail on a different podcast each week, or it might just be a segment that I do once where I kind of tell you a little bit about all of them, and then maybe in a few weeks, if I've discovered some more, I do it again. I don't know. Let me know which of those you think would be better. So maybe I'll take that into consideration. Another thing that I would like to do sometime soon, because the community is getting a little bit bigger, is some kind of knit along. So like one of the ideas I had, I mean, I want to keep it kind of loose, because there aren't a ton of us, and so I don't want it to be something really strict like let's all do this one pattern. I'd like it to be something that more people can participate in. So one thing I thought of was, what if it was something along the lines of trying a new sock technique. So it could be knitting socks for the first time if you haven't, or it could be magic loop for the first time. It could be toe up if you've always been doing toe down. It could be a pattern sock if you've only done vanilla. It could be a new kind of heel turn. It could be, what's another good example? Anyway, you get the idea. So yeah, let me know if you think that would be good for a knit along, or if not, other ideas or sort of like tweaks on that idea or other suggestions, because I think it would be really fun if we all did something together, and I'd like it to be the kind of open thing where there can be double dipping and it can be something that people can easily, you know, like jump into, because there aren't, you know, that many of us now, and I just think it would be great to foster some more community and have some more discussion going on in the Ravelry group, because just the little bit that you guys did for the giveaway was really exciting to me. So I'd like to have some more of that. So yeah, let me know in the comments here on YouTube or on Ravelry, and yeah, we'll see what comes of it. I hope you guys have a wonderful week. I hope you check out my vlog tomorrow, and let me know what you think of that, if you'd like to see more of that from time to time. And I will see you soon. Bye!